Hello everyone, good afternoon. Joshua here with a bit of a different video segment today, something we're going to be doing probably for the whole season, which is a post-match deep dive. Obviously, if you're a subscriber at the website, you'll know we do lots of stuff with the StatsBomb data and the Y-Scout images that we use a lot of tactical and data-driven stuff. So we're going to be bringing a bit more of that to YouTube, our YouTube channel this year, if that's your type of thing. The link is in the description for both of these articles if you want to go and read them in more detail and spend some more time looking at them. But in the meantime, I'm going to take you through just a few of kind of the top line numbers and graphs that we use back looking at Rangers 2-1 win over Livingston on Saturday. And just a reminder to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you enjoy what we do. Obviously, it's all completely free. You can also support our work by subscribing over on the rangersreview.co.uk. Just £2 for 2 months, an excellent deal if you want to come and join us. So I'm just going to pull up this stat first and foremost. This is kind of I'll put my face out of the way. This is kind of the top level numbers from the game. Rangers 2, Livingston 1. I'll take you through a few bits here before we get into some more of the graph. So firstly, if you look at the goals, obviously 2-1. The expected goals, Livingston created 0.39, Rangers 1.48. That's not a shockingly low number for going away to Livingston. Rangers overperformed slightly, but so did the hosts as well with their goals, so no real complaints there. I think that the main takeaway from this segment is you look at the possession Rangers had, obviously 81% to Livingston's 19%, but also the pass completion. So Rangers played almost 800 passes, completed 86% of those passes. Livingston only completed 50% of their 180 passes that they played. So what that's really telling you is that, you know, obviously a lot of their game having taken the lead so early, which will impact that pass completion number. They were looking for Joel Nouble up front a lot of the game, who had a really strong 90 minutes and caused Rangers plenty of problems. But what that kind of underlines is just how just what Rangers were up against. They're up against a team who are protecting their lead with absolutely everything, clearing their lines really regularly and trying to relieve pressure in that way. And if we go to the trend line, so what this trend line does is it takes the expected goals numbers when chances occurred and totals them up. You can see that up until the 45-minute mark, the red line and the blue line are pretty similar. Obviously, the blue is representing Livingston, as you can see in this graph. They had a 7% chance of winning this game based on the chances that were created. Rangers win that game 67 times out of 100, and there was a draw 26 times out of 100, again, based on the chances created. But for that first half, Rangers were really poor. It was very forgettable. They didn't really manage to get around Livingston after the first few minutes. You can see that actually there's a little red indent before Livingston's goal. Rangers did manage to kind of pin Livingston in for maybe 2-3 minutes. After that, for the remainder of the first half, Livingston defended really well. Obviously, David Martindale is known for setting up its sides with an ability to frustrate the Old Firm, and he did so again successfully on Saturday. Van Bronckhorst changes at halftime, and it's clear to see that the impact that the substitution of Malik Tillman made in chance creation, but also momentum. I mean, if you look at that first half, Rangers don't really have repetitive chances created, and to determine that, you're looking at the line getting bigger or there being another indent. But if you look around the kind of 10-minute period from 60 minutes onwards up until about 80, where the first and second Rangers goals occur, they had started to cause Livingston a lot of problems as well. They had an offside goal that was Antonio Cholak had the ball in the back of the net. It was unfairly adjudged to have been offside, so you've got to take that into consideration as well. So Rangers very much worth their while in the second half. Livingston with no attempts on target, and Van Bronckhorst said after the game it was one-way traffic, and it certainly was. I think you've got to give him credit for making the substitution at the right time, making it at half-time and not waiting, because Rangers, if they'd done that, maybe they wouldn't have got the 2 goals before the end of the game. We're going to now look at the first half pass map, which isn't pretty. And if you're wanting to understand this a little bit better, basically the larger the circle, the more passes a player has played. You can see the colour scheme at the bottom, low expected goals or high expected goals. So if it's a darker red, a player is going to have been more dangerous. They might have had a good shooting opportunity or laid on a good shooting opportunity. But if it is blue, as is the case with the entire team, it was pretty unthreatening. So if you see the average position in which players are receiving, Borna Barisic and Ryan Kent and James Tavernier and Scott Wright kind of playing on the same line. And that seemed a deliberate tactic being at the game. I've seen Van Bronckhorst quite a few times wave Tavernier and Wright to pin the touchline and try and stretch the pitch. Obviously, it's quite a tight surface at the Tony Macaroni, and Rangers wanted to make the pitch as big as possible. But it left Antonio Čolak just really isolated because Glenn Kamara isn't a goal-scoring number 10. He wasn't getting very close to the Croatian forwards. He was playing ahead of John Lundstrom, who saw plenty of the ball, but after the first few minutes again, I think saw his passing options quite limited because Livingston basically just sat off Suter and Goldson, and that allowed them to mark up all the other avenues. So it was quite flat, and it was the dreaded U-shape. And we're going to look quickly now at the pass, all the passes played by Rangers in that first half, and you can see it's the horseshoe effect where it just goes round and round up to either wing, in front of the opposition shape, just where they want it, and ultimately nothing really going into the striker's feet. Now, if you look there at the red line shows a successful pass and the yellow line an unsuccessful. There's little to no that I can see successful passes into the box, whether that be a cross. Rangers attempted 39 throughout the whole game, and whether that be a cross or a pass or whatever it may be. And even in front of that, if you look at the kind of zone just in front of the opposition box, no real passes completed. No one was able to take the ball in. Čolak wasn't really dropping, so it was pretty stale, and Rangers really struggled. If we look at Livingston's shot map now before we go into the second half, 0.39 xG as we can see. Nubly's goal is highlighted in the hexagon, the kind of white outlined hexagon. In yellow, it was a 0.15 xG chance that after he took a shot, it's post-shot XG, which takes into, so the XG obviously is taken into consideration out of 100 times based on where the goalkeeper is, the defenders are, the pace of the ball, the height of the ball, what is the expectation that this shot ends in a goal. And the post-shot XG is once the shot has happened, compared to the value of the chance. It's effectively determining the quality of the finish and the execution by the forward. And Nubly's ended up at 0.79 expected goal, so higher than a penalty. Such was the quality. Obviously, John McLaughlin coming at his goal, but such was the quality as well of his finish. Livingston, all their 5 shots came from that kind of left side of the Rangers defence, which struggled throughout. But as I say, after the half-time mark, they caused no real problems going forwards. But in that opening 20 minutes, they were, and Nubly even into the second half has that run down the line. I think after Ryan Kent loses the ball, that Connor Goldson he's called into action to perform some really good last ditch 1v1 defending when the game was at 1-0. That was a really important moment in the game and could well have seen it go out of reach of Rangers if Nubly had managed to get a second there. If we look at the Rangers shots, 1.48 expected goals. As mentioned, a fair number of digs from outside the box. Tom Lawrence responsible for a few of them. James Tavernier and Scott Arfield's goal again are outlined in white. You can see Tavernier's just towards the left-hand side of the box. We've got an analysis piece up on the kind of training ground move that saw Rangers put up a mini wall just in front of the Livingston wall and move out the way just at the last minute. So the keeper, Shamal George, didn't really have a good sighting of it. He also was quite central in the goal, and that's something that Tavernier spoke about after, saying that Connor Goldson had alerted him to it. So do go and check that out. We'll put that maybe in the comment section as well. And Arfield's header at the front post, which you can again see outlined in blue, it was a really low expected goal chance. I think it was 0.03. But his run was perfectly timed. The cross had good pace on it. And it was, as David Martindale was quick to praise, it was a type of run, the type of movement that Arfield's made a living off. So he showed his importance coming off the bench. Many people, including myself, kind of thought in the summer, has he still got a role to play? But he's answered those critics very, very quickly indeed. We're going to look now, just before we end the second half, what went right, what did Van Bronckhorst change? Mainly 2 things happened for me. You can see in this second half pass network a few things. You can see Tavernier and Kent kind of have, more control of the flanks. I know Barisic is still playing on a similar line to Kent, but he is maybe on this graph a few yards more inside the pitch, which had quite a big impact. I'm going to explain in a second. But by Tavernier and Kent occupying the wings also, and more central bodies, whether that be Arfield when he came on, Tillman, Lawrence, it meant that Livingston had to compensate for that, and they couldn't just populate the wings as they could in the first half and go 2v2 all the time. It allowed Tavernier to attack quite a good few crosses at the back, and Kent obviously crossed for Čolak and then crossed for Arfield. for the goal, both of which he managed to get 1v1 against his defender. He hadn't managed to do that at all in the first half. But if you look at Malik Tillman, who has quite a dark red just ahead of John Lundstrom, who certainly has a bigger circle, he was very involved with the ball on Saturday. Tillman took the ball in. He offered Rangers a pass through the pitch. We've seen in the first half pass map, they didn't really have that whatsoever. Played a bit closer to Cholak, and I think really helped change the game. He was able to carry the ball. You could see his physicality and his quality. And for a debut coming on away at Livingston, that's not an easy place to acclimatise yourself to Scottish football. So a very impressive debut from him. But all in all, I think the structure just better because Rangers set up and they didn't predict that they'd concede a goal within 5 minutes. Probably thought they'd have a little bit more space to work in, and by Livingston not having a goal to defend, they'd have naturally had to come out and play a little bit more. But when you're trying to break down a team, especially Livingston away from home, it's just a completely different story, such as their organisation. So Van Bronckhorst had to make a change with his coaching staff at halftime, and he did, and it was very successful. And just finally, we're just going to show kind of how that played out, what that meant. So if we look in the first half, what was happening, this still here highlights 3 players. You've got Ryan Kent on the ball in white, Scott Pittman and Nicky Devlin are tracking him, and Borna Barisic, who's just behind the name tag for Ryan Kent, is overlapping. This is something that an overlap obviously is designed to take a marker away. So Pittman was marking Barisic in this first half. But Rangers and Martindale said this after the game. Livingston wanted to keep Kent on his left foot. They didn't want to allow him to cut inside and perform that in-swinger that ultimately led to Arfield's goal. So what did they do? They put Pittman next to Devlin. That meant that Kent not only had a 2v1, but he couldn't really chop back onto his right foot because Pittman was there, and Devlin could kind of overcompensate then for going down the line and position his body to beat Kent or match him in the race down the line when he's going on to his left foot, because he's got that cover of his teammate Pittman covering the right-hand side. So Barisic, probably through no fault of his own, his movement wasn't very effective. It was just kind of busying up the area that Kent was trying to work his magic from and make a little bit of a difference. So what did Van Bronckhorst and his coaching staff do? Well, if you see here, Barisic is just at the bottom right of your screen. And Kent is about to, this is just before he assists Arfield, so about 71, 72 minutes. Just you can see at the top of the screen, I think that's 71:56. The red circle outlines where Pittman, or in this example, Omiyonga, would have been. Livingston, Martindale said was switching to a different shape at this point. But because Barisic is tucked in field at this point, it means his markers had to come and pressurise him. Because Barisic can also deliver from deep. We've seen he obviously hit the post or crossbar, perhaps accidentally. But that means that Livingston couldn't double up on Kent in the same way. And ultimately, as we've seen for Arfield's goal, and as everyone will know, that allowed Kent to cut and deliver an in-swinger with space that just wasn't there in the first half, and Rangers finally managed to break through. So it was nervy. It was a difficult way to get 3 points on the opening day of the season, but Rangers managed to do so. Hope you enjoyed that little run through. Plenty more of that on the website. We'll be doing these on YouTube a couple of days after the game. If you want early access to all the stats, all the graphs, to give you a deeper look at the game and understanding from our partners at StatsBomb, you can subscribe for just £2 for 2 months over on the website. Do go and check out the articles attached below. Hope you enjoyed that. You'll be seeing this on Monday afternoon. Hopefully we'll have done our morning briefing by then, which delayed obviously by the press conference earlier today. We'll be back speaking to you tomorrow morning, again ahead of the Champions League qualifier in Belgium. So until then, enjoy the rest of your Monday. Thanks for joining me, and speak to you soon.